Ladies, gentlemen, and of course, everybody in between, welcome back to the Electrek Garage. I'm your host, as always, Declan Cav, and today we are finally going to be converting the Electrek to lithium iron phosphate.
All right, can you get out? This is mine.
Now, if you watched my previous video, you know what I'm talking about, and if you didn't watch my previous video, I hate you and you're a loser, but I guess I can catch you up to speed. This is my 1979 Unique Mobility Electrek, VIN number 1, and it's a panel van. Wow, this is a rare car. I bought this car about 5 years ago, and this car is actually the reason that I am an electrical engineer to this day. I love this car, it is my dream car, and I hope to someday be able to daily drive this car, and this lithium pack is going to be the start of that conversion. Now, from factory, this car used 16 6-volt lead acid batteries. That gave it a range of advertised 100 miles of range. Well, let's be honest, it was never going to get that. So this thing realistically had like 50 miles of highway range. Yeah, it wasn't good. Now, in my efforts to make this car into my daily driver, I've decided to convert this car to a lithium-ion battery pack. And specifically, the lithium-ion cells out of a Coda EV from 2012. My original plan with this car for the lithium conversion was going to be using 7 of these. This is a Tesla Model S battery module, and it would have taken at least 7 of these to power the car. And if I do some quick math in my head, that would get it about 40 kilowatts in that range, which would give the car roughly 220 miles of range. The problem with this is this battery, this one module sitting right here, costs $1,200. So it would have been way too expensive for me to use these in my car. I'm a broke college student. I can't afford this. So I needed a cheaper option, and that's what led me to using these cells. These are the lithium iron phosphate cells out of a 2012 Coda EV. You can see me harvesting them in my last video. Go watch it. While these are significantly less dense than the Tesla modules, these will still give my car 32 kilowatts of power, which will get it maybe 200 miles of range, somewhere in the 150 to 200 mile range area. The other advantage of using these batteries is they're significantly cheaper. One Tesla module costs $1,200. This entire battery pack cost me $900. So I'm going with the Coda ones. Now we can refer to my amazing illustration right here. There'll probably also be a little bit of a 3D rendering on the screen to make it more understandable. But this car is going to need 18 modules. That's going to be 6 in series and 3 in parallel. So what we need to build is 3 of these 6 series packs, and then we wire them in parallel. Pretty easy. So I do need 18 modules in order to power this Electrek battery pack. And while I do technically have 18, 4 of them are this little 6P5S compared to the 6P6S of the modules that I need. So I can't use 4 of the 18 modules that I have, which means I need 4 more of the 6P6S, which might be a little hard because that means I need to find somebody who has spare Coda parts sitting around, maybe somebody with more than one Coda. Maybe if they had 3 Codas, that'd be useful, and that they're just kind of willing to give me some parts. Man, I just can't think of anyone.
So I've got these Coda modules here. Now I could do a lot of things with this. This is a 6S configuration, this is a 6S configuration. I could put them in series and that makes 12S. I could do math. And I could do a lot with them, but I think what I'm actually going to do...
Hey Robert, I'm going to take this. Thanks.
Okay, I only have a 6S configuration now, so my options are kind of... I want to take this too. Don't break my table.
Now when it comes to BMS, my go-to is always Orion, but not this time. Orion doesn't actually make a BMS that can support what I need for this project. So instead, I'm giving a different company a try. It's a company that I've used their products a bit in the past, and that is Thunderstruck Motors. This is the Thunderstruck 18, it's the BMS S18, which means it supports 18 cells in series, which is perfect for my usage. This is going to be a parent-child battery management setup, which means we have the parent, or the MCU, which stands for Marvel Cinematic Universe, or if you're lame, Module control unit? I'm sure I could look it up, but that would require me doing research for a YouTube video, and I'm not doing that. This is a BMS satellite. There's going to be 6 of these in my battery pack. Each one of these can support 18 cells in series, and it has a line that will communicate back to the MCU. And the MCU is what controls all 6 of these to make sure they're all talking together. If it doesn't make sense, just keep watching. You'll get it. I promise. You're smart. Now, like I said in my amazing whiteboard drawing, we're going to be wiring 6 of these in series for each of the 3 parallel modules. But the BMS satellite can only support 18 cells, and each of these is a 6P6S pack, which basically means we're going to be splitting each of the series packs, the 6 sets of series packs, into 2 parts. So we're going to start by doing 3, 3, and then we'll combine those 2 for the 6 that we need. It's a lot of numbers. That's all I have to say. It's a lot of numbers. Screw you. Before I go ahead and wire these in series, I do want to get the cable management for the BMS out of the way first so that we can get them wired in series, and then we can quickly get them connected to the BMS and we can start leveling these cells. Because even though these were taken out of the same car, these have been sitting for about 3 months, and so they have had a little bit of self-discharge and they're not perfectly leveled. So we do want to get these, when in series, hooked up to a BMS as soon as we can. Now, this is going to be the first set of series connections. And the way to fit this in the Electrek pack means I have to flip these sideways. So let's do that real quick. All right, now that we have our beautiful sideways modules, the BMS satellite's gonna go right here, and we're gonna do some cable management. This is the cable that comes with the BMS satellite. There are 18 of the white cables and 1 of the black cable. The black cable is the far most negative terminal of the pack. And then we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way to 18, going away from the most negative terminal on the pack. I'm just going to be using some painter's tape right now to hold these cables in place. I'll come up with a more permanent solution in the future, but right now I just want to get these set down so I can start using the computer software and get these cells balancing. Wire management will come later once we need everything to be permanent. This is just a good temporary solution. So let's do some cable management. All right, now that we have the cables kind of managed, just temporary, we can move them around, but it's just to kind of get an idea of where these wires need to be. We are going to be wiring these 3 modules in series. If you don't know what wiring in series means, first off, it means you haven't been watching my videos, which is rude, but I'll tell you anyways. It means that we're wiring from positive to negative and negative to positive. Basically what it does is it combines the voltages. So each of these 20 volt modules will combine to make 60 volts. This is where it starts to get a little bit dangerous, so we do need to be pretty careful when we're doing this. Could I die? Maybe. Is it likely? No. But just in case, we have these. These are rubber isolated gloves. These are what are used by electricians to work on power lines. These ones are specifically made for use on electric vehicles. Are they overkill? Yes. Is it going to hurt me to use them? No. These actually have to be checked every 6 months to make sure that they're still good and will protect you from shock. These were just tested earlier this month. They're good to go, and they'll protect me from any electrical shocks that may come from this. I don't expect there to be any, but again, it doesn't hurt to be a little extra safe. Electricity is dangerous. You gotta respect it. All right, so we're gonna be starting with these 2 first battery packs, and we're connecting them with this jumper here that I made earlier off camera. I'll show you guys how they're made earlier. Like I said, these gloves really are overkill. The chances of me getting shocked, first off, are extremely low, and the chances of the shock being deadly are, again, extremely low. But it really does, I know I joke around a lot on this channel, but safety is very important, especially when it comes to electricity, because it can very easily kill you. So this jumper is going to go like this. Now, to ensure that I've wired these correctly, we're just going to use my multimeter, and we should be reading little less than 40 volts. Positive goes here, negative goes here, and we see 32.9 volts, which is about what I'd expect to see. Each of these was about 16 volts, and we're getting 32 volts, which means I did this correctly, and it's wired in series. These 2 modules are now wired together. Let's add the 3rd one.
Hey, it's VoiceOver Declan. You thought I wouldn't be in this video, didn't you? Maybe you even wished I wasn't. That's mean. I hate you. Anyway, my microphone died here and I didn't realize it. So the audio quality is a little bad, but don't worry. It gets much worse later, so don't even worry about it. Okay, bye.
Now this one's a little stranger, just the way that the connectors worked in the Coda. So we have this V-shaped connector to put these two together. Now, just like before, we're going to test with the multimeter. We should be seeing about 16 times 3 volts, which would be 48 volts. Probably see a little bit more due to the decimal point of some of these batteries being a little bit higher charged. 49.3 volts. That's about exactly what I'd expect to see from this, which means we are now properly wired in series and we are ready to connect the BMS leads. Alright, I've disconnected the BMS satellite from our nice wiring that we did earlier, because when we're connecting the BMS wiring, we don't want to just shoot this thing with voltage. We always want to make sure, before we connect anything, that we have it wired properly. It's a thing of measuring twice, cutting first, whatever the saying is, I don't know. But we're going to be using this handy little tool, and this is a BMS cell tester. So we're going to wire all of our BMS taps up, and then we'll plug it into this, and this will verify that everything's wired correctly so that we don't damage this much more expensive part. So now we are going to be adding the connectors, cutting some wires, and we are going to be wiring up the BMS so that we can start balancing these cells. So let's do it.
Hey, remember how I said everything got worse? Well, here's where it gets worse. My audio completely cut out at this point, and so no audio is being recorded. I don't even know what I was talking about in this scene, so just pretend like our lips match up. And I'm just going to do it in voiceover. So now I can use my multimeter to test each of the individual pins on this board, starting with 1, and I get 2.8. And now I'm going to go 1 pin at a time, and basically what I'm making sure is that each pin, the voltage increases by the same increment, so about 2.8 per pin. And that basically means that everything is wired properly and that nothing is going to blow up when I plug it in. I hope that makes sense. And in this test, spoiler alert, everything was good. So you don't have to watch me test each individual pin. Let's just skip ahead. Okay, this is boring. Bye.
Hey guys, owe you an apology. I've been recording for the past couple of days, but none of my audio has been, so yikes. But luckily, too much hasn't happened since I last talked to you guys. I now have this fiberglass tray. It actually came with my 2+2 Electrek that I bought a couple years ago. I don't actually know where it came from because it doesn't have any dividers in it. I'll show, there's a picture on the screen, I'm sure, of a normal looking Electrek battery tray, and you can see that this one doesn't have dividers. There are 2 reasons why I think this might be. One, this could have been a factory test, just for testing batteries in the factory. Or I recently learned that the Electreks came in 2 battery options, a 96 volt, which is what all of mine are, and a 108 volt. I've never actually seen this or seen any evidence of any of these existing, but this could have been a sled for a 108 volt Electrek. No matter the case, it's actually perfect for my battery pack here because my batteries fit right in perfectly. If you can count, you might notice that there's only 5 batteries wired in series right now. And that is because I had a phone call with Jim McCullough the other day. If you don't know who Jim is, he's an ex-employee of Unique Mobility and he worked on the Electreks. He's basically the only reason that any of these cars still drive today. But he informed me that 130 volts, the voltage that my battery pack was going to be running at, was just too high for the controller to handle. So I had to nerf the pack a little bit. So I was a little bit upset. I was thinking, oh, well, now I'm only going to get 170 miles of range because I can't include a 6th cell. But then I realized that we could actually do 4 sets of 5 series, making it a 5S 4P pack. And I'm sure, again, there's 3D graphics on the screen getting fancy. You know how it be. But what this means is that now, instead of only getting 200 miles of range, like I originally estimated, with an additional 2 modules, we will boost the range to 215 miles. Awesome! But I do need 2 more modules, so I'm not really sure where I'm gonna get those.
Okay, since my last modules were stolen, I've got 2 more. Thankfully, I've got a whole stash of CODA modules over here. And anyway, back to what I was saying. I've got it. No.
I need more, Robert.
Wait, how many do you need?
This many, Robert.
Do I still get to keep this one, or?
No, we need that one.
Okay. Haha. Well, you know what? I got a 5S module. You're not going to take that.
Yeah, I won't take that one. Those ones are useless. And you know it.
This one's mine. You can't have it. I don't need it either.
And just so you guys know, Robert and I are friends. I did not hold him at gunpoint and rob him of these batteries. Here, I got proof.
Robert, say the line.
I consented to Declan taking my batteries, and I consented to read these lines.
See, he's fine. Now I spend way too long going through way too many settings on the BMS software, but I figured it would be worth leaving in the video for anyone who's interested in that. So if you're not interested in that and hearing me ramble, then skip to the timestamp on the screen and it'll bring you to the next part of the video. You don't really need to know the next thing I'm going to say. Bye.
So now I can kind of walk you through how this BMS works and all that. So here we have the MCU, like I explained earlier. This is hooked up and is getting about 13 volts from my tabletop DC power supply. And this is connected via these orange and yellow cables to the 2 BMS satellites that are sitting in the battery tray right now, which those are connected to the modules like we showed in the last clip. So now I can plug my computer into the MCU and I use a software called Putty. And this is just what Thunderstruck Motors recommends. I don't really know. You can probably use whatever you want. This is what they told me to use. This is what I'm going to use. But you can see that it's basically just a command window. And I can run some commands. So I can go show, if I can type, config. And this will show you all the settings that I have currently set up on my BMS. So some important ones to look at here is the BMS itself. The architecture type is LTC18. An LTC is a little chip that goes inside of each of the BMS satellites. And we are using the 18 series version of the LTC. So this is an LTC 18 version. Then we have the high voltage cutoff. This is the maximum voltage that we want our cells to be at. This is actually kind of wrong at the moment. During charging, we can expect these cells to go up to 3.6. But currently it's set to 3.34. Then you can see the low voltage cutoff, which is set to 2.4. A little low, but it's not going to damage the batteries really to go this low. And I will probably raise it once we get these batteries hooked up to a charger. Then we have BV min. BV min just basically means what is the lowest voltage that it will attempt to balance the cells at. And so the lowest the cells will go is the lowest that I will have the cells be balanced to. Then we have the high pack. This is the maximum voltage that we would like the battery pack to be at. Currently it is also a little bit lower than it would be during charging, and I will adjust this later once we start getting into the charger. Then we have the TH max and TH min. TH stands for thermistor, and I actually don't have the thermistors yet. I thought I did, but it turns out that Thunderstruck requires that you use proprietary parts for the thermistors, so I had to order those from Thunderstruck. Points off for Thunderstruck for that one, but it's okay, all good. Thermistors are coming in the mail, and I will have those installed later, and I'll show you that when we install them. This is basically telling the BMS what's the lowest temperature the batteries can be at and what the highest temperature the batteries can be at. Then we get into the charging. The plug type is J1772, which we will get into a little later. The charger that we are using is the TSM 2500. TSM standing for Thunderstruck Motors. I'm using their own parts because they just work really well and communicate with their own parts really well. So it's just easier and cheaper for me to work with Thunderstruck motor parts. Then we can see max V, that is the maximum voltage that it will charge at. So 108 is actually the correct voltage. That is the peak voltage, which will make each of the cells 3.6, which is the maximum that they can charge to. They'll usually stay around 3.4 volts per cell. We'll get into all that later when we get into the charging. Max C is just set to the default of 2 amps right now. This will be adjusted and will go up and up as we work on the charging system. And then we have TERMC and TERMT. I don't exactly know what these stands for, but my understanding is this is referring to the floating. Floating a battery charge basically means that even if the batteries are at full capacity, it'll still give them a little bit of voltage so that they stay at peak charge and at peak capacity. Keeps your batteries healthy, keeps your car fully charged. Everyone likes it. And these are just some of the settings that I don't know too much about right now. But yeah, this is the software, super intuitive. I was actually surprised at how much I like this. I was worried I wasn't gonna like it coming from Orion software, which is very intuitive, but I actually think I prefer this. And don't tell Orion I said that. I don't know who he is, but he'll kill me. The next thing we do is show cells command, which will show me the voltage of every single set of series cells in my battery pack. This is a tongue twister. I am struggling right now. But you can see that every single set, currently there are 30 sets of series in our current pack. It'll tell us the voltage of every single one, and it'll tell you if it's low, using a minus, or high, using a plus. Now, if I want to start balancing the cells, all I gotta do is type enable balance, and it'll start balancing. And we can see this happening by doing show cells again. And you can see that the highest voltage cells are discharging, which basically means the highest voltage cells are discharging and are going to charge the lowest voltage cells. Normally we'd see all of these voltages be almost exactly the same, but these batteries have been sitting around for a couple months, so they're a little out of whack. Now, I'm not actually going to balance right now. I'm actually going to disable the balance. And that is because this BMS bottom balances, which basically means it'll take the highest voltage cells and bring them down to the level of our lowest voltage cells. Currently, our lowest voltage cell is, I can actually check real quick, 2.455 volts. It won't damage the battery pack to bring all the cells down to this level, but it's not recommended. There is a chance that it could damage it. And I don't want to take that chance. So before we actually start balancing all these cells properly, I want to get the charger all wired up, and then we're going to charge these up just a little bit, just to about 3 volts. And that way we can properly balance these cells in a safe manner. Obviously, as it's charging, it will also continue to balance the cells as it's charging. Thermistors. This tiny little thing right here is a thermistor. Thermistor is a combination of the words thermometer and resistor. It's a resistive thermometer, and the way it works is it basically tells the temperature by resistance. A little complicated, but it basically makes it so that the thermometer is readable by a computer using resistance. This is a 10K thermistor, which means that, I don't know. I don't really know anything about thermistors, but this is our thermistor. This tiny, tiny little blob here right at the top is actually where the temperature reading takes place. And then these are just the leads that connect to the connector. Speaking of the connector, this is a proprietary part from Thunderstruck Motors. This is the little connector that plugs into the BMS satellites. I'd be okay with this if it wasn't $20 for each of these. In total, for all my thermistors, I had to pay $125. Which, I mean, it is a safety feature, so I get it, and I'm obviously gonna pay that money, but it just seems a little expensive. Also, I really like Thunderstruck BMS systems. It's completely turned me off from Orion for future projects, except for one thing. The satellites only support 5 thermistors per module, and there's no room for expansion. Why? Why 5? Give me 6. I could use 6. But I have some projects in the future that I'd really like to use these BMSs for, but I need more than 5 thermistors per module. So fix it, Thunderstruck. So now you're looking at the top-down view of one of the CODA modules that it's already wired into the pack. and we need to decide where we want each of these thermistors to go. From factory, the coated thermistors actually stuck down into 2 holes, 3 holes. I don't actually know how many there were from factory. I believe there are only 2, but there's 3 holes here that the thermistors were stuck down into that would go in between the batteries. I was really, really hoping that these would fit, but they just don't quite go in all the way. So, leaves us with some options. We can pull off this plastic cover at some point, and we can see if there's other holes, or there are these slightly larger holes over here that go slightly less deep into the battery pack, but should still give us a reliable reading on the temperature. So I believe we might be using these. I also have to figure out how I want to distribute these 5 transistors per module, because well, it's going to be uneven per cell, but as long as we're getting temperature readings, I'm pretty okay with this. So let's first get the first set of these soldered, because the connectors didn't come connected. I have to solder these myself. Thanks, Thunderstruck. Let's do it.
I then soldered and installed the thermistors, but for some reason, past me decided that it wasn't worth filming. I don't know, that guy's dumb.
This is the charger that we're going to be using in this project. This is the TSM 2500, like I said before. It's a 3 kilowatt charger, which is really slow. At these speeds, it will take over 12 hours for my car to charge from 0 to full. But the good news is I can upgrade to include 3 more of these chargers to have 4 of them total in parallel to give me 12 kilowatts of charging. I'm only just starting with 1 to keep things simple and figure out where I want to go from here. But this is a charger we're going to be going with. Never used it before, but so far I've been enjoying it. Programmable through the CAN network, communicates directly with the BMS, the MCU. It has a few different ports. You have your AC in. This is where we get power from the wall. We have a plug that will charge our 12 volt while the rest of our car charges. It actually comes with a little display that shows the percentage. Focus on this, focus on this, focus. There it is. It'll show the general state of charge of the battery when charging. Then we have CAN communication lines and some other stuff. I think this is like driveway protection so that you can't drive your car when it's charging. So I've been trying to figure out how to get this charger to work literally all day. And it's been a pain in the butt, but luckily Thunderstruck Motors has a really, really good customer service. And my mistake was dumb. All I had to do was take this alligator clamp right here and connect it to my ground. I had to ground the case to the 12 volt ground. I spent so long trying to figure this out, but it's charging now, so I guess that's all that matters. I'm going to keep an eye on it and slowly increase the amperage as we go as I get more comfortable and monitor the temperatures. But we're charging! Yay!
So after balancing those cells, I decided that it was time to build the next quarter of the battery pack. You can see me struggling quite a bit. It's a tight fit in that tray. But I'm just cramming them in there. They do fit. They actually fit really well. It's impressive how well they fit. And then I go through and I attach the new BMS leads. And then I did the same thing and I charged this pack to 3 volts as well. So I'm going to shut up now and let you guys enjoy a time lapse. Bye-bye.
Alright, we can now move on to the second half of this battery pack, and I've been avoiding it for a very good reason. These two modules in front of me may look exactly the same, and they are exactly the same, but with one big difference. This module came out of my coda, and this module came out of one of Robert's coda. And so these two are wildly different voltages. And the pack sitting next to me is also a wildly different voltage from both of these. So I now need to get these to relatively the same voltage as I have this pack at, so that I don't damage anything when wiring it together. So what I'm going to do to solve this problem is I have 4 of my packs and 6 of Robert's. I'm going to be taking my 4 and wiring them in series, and Robert's 6 and wiring them in series. I could then use my Thunderstruck Motors charger to charge these battery packs to the same voltage as this one right here. That way, when I go to combine them, there won't be any sparks, there won't be any damaged battery cells, and that the BMS will have a really easy time leveling these cells with these cells. So what I need to do now is I need to wire these 4 in series and these 6 in series, and then I need to get a BMS hooked up to them because you don't want to charge without a BMS, and then we'll charge them to the proper voltage, and then we'll get them wired into this pack. So let's do that. Well, you can see that I now have the second part of the battery pack staged. I didn't show it on camera because you've seen me do it before and it's boring. But what I did was I wired up one BMS to 3 of Robert's batteries. And what I found was that Robert's batteries are within 0.02 volts of my batteries, which means I don't need to charge all 6 of Robert's batteries. The only batteries I do need to charge are my 4, which are low on charge. So I'm actually just going to continue wiring up Robert's batteries, and then I'm going to wire up these 4 in series, and then charge those ones up. But it's super nice. I don't have to charge Robert's batteries, so that worked out well. I definitely could have figured this out before wiring up the BMS, but I didn't. So, I'll be back. Alright, so I have the 4 modules that need to be charged, wired up, and all connected to the BMS. I've reprogrammed my computer so that it is working with the current voltages that we're working with. And that also includes reprogramming the controller to charge to the voltage that we need to charge to. So now it's as easy as popping this open. You can see we have our J1772 port right here. Beautiful. And then we take our Chevy branded EV charger and plug it in. Now we see the fan come on. And if I bring my computer over here, I can type in the command show, and I can see that we are charging at a rate of 3.1 amps at 65.7 volts. Which is exactly what I want. Actually, if I do show again, we should see those amps go up. We're now charging at 5 amps, which is what I have it limited to. So yeah, I'm gonna let this charge all the way up to match the voltage of the rest of the packs, and then we'll be able to move forward with the project. All right, I now have everything wired up. Obviously, I don't have all the cable management done, but the battery pack is essentially done, which I'm kind of impressed that I didn't die while doing this. But yeah, amazingly, when I plugged Robert's batteries and my batteries into the same BMS, they were only 0.02 volts away from each other, which was insane. I don't know how they were that close to each other, but weird coincidence. It all works out. I have everything balancing together right now. I think there were like 3 low cells, but everything is about charged to about 80% state of charge, and I might charge it up maybe if I feel like it. I don't know, there's really not any reason for me to do it, but I kind of want to. But yeah, next step is just going to be me doing some cable management here, making it look all pretty. And then we will do a test fit in the car and make sure everything slides in nicely. It's going to be a tight fit. But yeah, let me do some cable management and then we'll do a test fit. Bye.
So we did a test fit and it didn't fit. Spoiler alert. And you might be saying, Declan, didn't you measure before you did this? And yes, I did. But the battery tunnel in the Electrek is a weird shape, and it was cutting it close, but I thought, oh, it's just going to fit. But it didn't. And so essentially what this means is I now have to completely take apart the battery pack and rebuild it without the tray. Because without the tray, it'll fit. Oh, this sucks.
All right, and that's gonna be the end of this video. I've decided to split this video into 2 parts because it's getting too long and I'd like to get a video out. Obviously there's a few small things that we need to finish on the battery pack, mainly just the cable management, which is super easy to do. But in the next episode, we'll be worrying about integration, because obviously that's a whole nother thing where we have to get it integrated into the car and get the car driving on its pack. In the next video, we will also, once everything's done, be doing a real world range test to see what the actual range we get out of these batteries is. But for now, we're gonna leave it here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. If you did, please consider subscribing. These videos take me so long to make. I really like making them, but they take forever. You can follow me on TikTok at DeclanCav, and you can find my other YouTube channel, Television Soup, in the description below, where I play video games because cars aren't the only thing I do. You can find my website, uniquemobility.org. I'm also working on a new website that'll feature all kinds of rare electric cars that'll be coming out hopefully in the next few months, and I'll link that below once that's done. Make sure you guys check out Robert Dunn's channel, Aging Wheels, as well. Not that he needs a shout out from me, but without him, this project wouldn't have been possible. Super nice guy, super genuine guy, and great content. I'm not just saying that because he gave me free batteries and let me drive all of his cars. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next video. Love you. Bye.
Beautiful.
That was really violent. Like, you got the drill.
10 out of 10. I think that was good. Quinn, you don't watch my videos, so is it good?
I don't know, sure.